Hi, my name is Patrick Butler, and welcome to Short Sale Secrets. Have you ever noticed that some real estate agents seem to have all the luck? They take short sale listings and they get sold in record time and close in even faster time. They work with buyers that they show short sale listings to, and for some reason those deals close too. Yet other real estate agents seem to find short sales to be a total nightmare and a headache. They never hear back from the lender and the deals just never seem to close on time. Well, luck does have a little bit to play with that, but more importantly, it's understanding which short sales to go after and which ones, quite frankly, to leave behind. So what we're going to cover in this next few minutes are some of the secret components that you as a real estate agent absolutely must understand in order to identify the right short sales to work to help you grow your income. But before we get started on the short sales, let's first understand how we got to this point in the first place. This last decade in the real estate industry has been unprecedented, with the real estate balloon and of course the burst thereafter and the mortgage collapse that followed directly behind that. So let's take a look at this slide. This graph is from Credit Suisse and it shows us the re-indexing of subprime loans during the course of the past few years and actually into the few years ahead of us. Now what this means is very simple. The first big bump on the graph, that set of green bars, identifies the short-term adjustable rate loans that re-indexed over the course of the past few years. Well, I'll take a minute and explain that if you're not a financial guru. Adjustable rate mortgages typically have a fixed rate period and then the indexing and adjustment period. These short-term adjustables were typically 228s or 327s, meaning that their fixed rate period was either 2 or 3 years, and then they began their annual adjustment thereafter. Well, think about it. These toxic loans, or subprime loans as they were known in the industry, were actually originated back around 2003 and 2004 in great quantities, and buyers came in out of the woodwork to buy these properties, many times with the hopes of flipping them. So that first hump on the graph is nearly $1 trillion worth of fully indexed adjustable rate loans. Now, once these things became fully indexed, they went from their teaser rate into a regular interest rate. But a lot of people then say, well, my goodness, rates were low and still are. Well, don't forget, adjustable rate mortgages have something known as a margin associated with them, which is how much above the interest rate the consumer actually pays. And these subprime loans oftentimes had margins as high as 6%. So even in a 4% interest rate market, that mortgage ended up at 10%. The next wave on the graph, the yellow one, are the pay option ARMs, or negative amortization loans, which had a 5-year fixed rate period whereby the consumer was paying less than even the interest due on the mortgage payment. What this created was negative amortization, whereby every mortgage payment actually added loan balance to their property. Well, once the 5-year window hit, once again, they experienced payment shock and in many cases had either double or triple the amount of the mortgage payment, sending them deeply into the foreclosure spiral. That was $1.5 trillion worth of loans. So where we sit today is on a toxic loan mountain, but it's also a gold mine for us if we understand how to work these deals. So let's take a look at some of the eligibility requirements. And what we're talking about, folks, is the federal government's HAFA program, or the Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternative Program. This was established back in 2009 by the administration to provide some semblance of sanity to the short sale market. And that is to provide guidelines to determine whether or not a buyer, or rather a borrower, is eligible for the short sale, and the borrower meaning the seller of the property, and what the time constraints would be on transacting these deals. That's a lot of information that we cover in our certified short sale program. We encourage you to check that out. Now, some of the things that we're going to find under the HAFA program are relative to the borrower, and other things are relative to the home. So let's take a few minutes and explore the eligibility requirements. The first question that we want to determine is the property occupied by the owner-occupant, or is it an investor-owned property? Now, this is very important. Not to say that investor-owned properties cannot be successful short sale transactions, but they're not eligible for the federal government's HAFA program. So if it's your listing, you'll know whether or not it's owned and occupied by the owner-occupant, or whether it's an investor-owned property. But what about if you're working with a buyer and you're showing listings on the marketplace? It would stand to reason that the first thing you should ask after making an appointment or finding out if the property is still available is this the owner-occupant, or is it investor-owned? If you're going to stay on the path of the straight and narrow, I would try and avoid showing the investor-owned properties, unless you and the buyer are willing to go through that pain. The next piece of eligibility requirement, and this is more so for your purposes than the lender, is are there multiple liens on the property? Now, HAFA does have provisions for second or junior liens or even third liens on it, but they're not very lucrative for the second lien holder. In fact, the maximum payout that the HAFA program will allow for all junior liens is $6,000. So our recommendation, stick with the single lien properties. That is a primary mortgage only that's upside down. The other thing that we'll also want to talk about and address is the type of property. Now, HAFA supports single family or up to 4-unit residences, so single family condos, townhomes, detached homes, duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes are all eligible properties for the HAFA program. So again, why not multiple liens? Well, it's twice as much work to negotiate 2 liens, and quite often junior liens are just not as willing to accept little to nothing for their sale. They would rather just see the property go into foreclosure. Maybe it's sour grapes, I don't know. The next piece of eligibility requirement is the origination date of the loan. Did the loan close essentially on or before January 1st, 2009? If it was afterwards, the federal government does not see that as an eligible HAFA file. So again, you can look at your local public records or tax rolls and find out when that property closed, or if it was a refinance, when that loan was originated. Very important to identify that date. If you don't know, you can always ask the listing agent as well. The loan balance is yet another eligibility requirement. So loans that exceed $729,750, again, are deemed ineligible for the federal government HAFA program. Again, we're not dissuading you from working jumbo market short sales, but for this plan of attack, we're going after the HAFA program. So keep that number in mind. Again, you can find that in the public records, and bear in mind that loan balance is only for the primary lien. It doesn't include second or third liens. Make sense? Good. So there are a couple of secrets that we also want to share with you, and that's the HAFA timeline, or how does this deal actually go down? Well, there are a number of milestones when it comes to a HAFA short sale that the servicer or lender and the homeowner or borrower need to pay attention to. And you as a real estate agent typically will have to manage this. But the first piece on the part of the lender is the solicitation, or reaching out to the borrower to determine if they are in fact going to participate in HAFA. Now, one of two things can happen. Either that lender will reach out to the homeowner or the borrower through a solicitation letter, or you as the real estate agent may be the first point of contact by bringing a contract in. There's 2 schools of thought, and we'll run through both of them for you. So after the lender shoots out a letter to the borrower in the form of a solicitation, that borrower typically has 14 days with which to respond by telephone, email, or by mail correspondence. That response will stop the timer, and if they respond, yeah, I'm interested in participating in HAFA, then the lender has to go through the eligibility process, and they will gather all kinds of documentation from the borrower, typically their hardship letters, income, and all that other great stuff that we're all familiar with, or that you'll find out more about if you take our certified short sale class with respect to qualifying for HAFA. Once that borrower responds and the lender has started the eligibility process, there's typically a 30-day window by which the lender will validate the borrower's information to determine whether or not they are indeed eligible to move forward with the HAFA program. If the borrower has been deemed eligible, then the lender will send out a short sale agreement to them. And this short sale agreement stipulates all of the details that you'll typically find with respect to the listing. How much the listing price is, what the lender would be willing to accept in some cases as far as other costs such as buyer paid closing costs. The lender will also pay the seller $3,000 upon closing the property for relocation assistance. After the short sale agreement has been completed, there's a 120-day window to list and sell the property. At that point, once that property has gone under contract, a request for approval of a short sale will be delivered to the lender. If after 120 days there is not a contract, the lender does have the right to extend that short sale agreement for a period of up to 1 year. Now, the request for approval of a short sale, or the RAS as it's known, contains all the financial information pertinent to the sale price, any exclusions, closing costs, settlement fees, etc., and that's what the lender will then use to determine if it meets their minimum acceptable net proceeds. Now, here's the best part. The lender only has 10 days with which to make that determination. So gone are the days of waiting 6 months before you ever hear from them, and you've got the federal guidelines to back you up. Once that sale's been approved, the lender typically will require a closing no less than 45 days and usually no greater than 60 days down the road. So that's great news for all of us. Why do we want you to take a certified short sale agent certification course? Well, folks, this is tons of great information. Not only do we dive into the mindset of the buyer and the seller in short sale transactions, but we provide you with everything from soup to nuts on how to get short sales and how to close them in record time. We show you all of the documentation that's required through both HAFA or a traditional short sale, as well as the programs that are put out by the federal government and some specialized lender programs. We'll teach you how to market short sales and how to find buyers for these things, as well as how to find short sale listings through the business development process. Last but not least, we'll teach you all of the technology tools that you'll need to understand when working with lenders and servicers to get your half of short sales closed. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, we welcome you to the Certified Short Sale Agent Program, and until then, have a great day.